Okay, so um, remember I've said that this is all by design, that they are doing this on purpose, that the literal willful incompetence is there. It's not by accident, or how could they have known? I mean, you're allowing Border Patrol guards to be overworked, and some of them have unalived themselves, and you keep continuing the same pattern, which allows this to happen. DHS admits border has been open to criminals and terrorists. DHS Chief Alejandro Mayorkas admits that its southern border policy allowed criminals and terrorists to enter as background checks were delayed until asylum hearings. A new regulation aims to expedite deportation to address this security risk. Surprisingly, the Biden administration's experiment with a somewhat open southern border has resulted in an estimated 10 million individuals crossing in just over 3 years. However, the most startling aspect of the border strategy might have just come to light. Recently, a new rule was introduced by Alejandro Mayorkas, the impeached chief of the Department of Homeland Security. DHS has inadvertently disclosed that it has not been doing background checks on millions of undocumented immigrants to deport those with criminal records to ties to terrorism right away in a statement announcing the regulation. As an alternative, they have been delaying that decision until the asylum hearing, which takes place years later. Meanwhile, they continue to be in the U.S. awaiting the hearing. First of all, it should be acknowledged that the entire foundation for allowing millions of undocumented migrants to enter the country is fanciful. People can cross over roughly 2,000 miles southern border almost anywhere they choose. Usually, they are not obligated to enter via a designated entry point at your convenience, or more precisely, the drug cartel's discretion cross the desert, the mountains, or the river. No issue will send Border Patrol to you, where they'll gladly process you and grant you admission straight away. Since they are now being handled as refugees seeking asylum rather than illegal migrants as they were previously, they are processed and granted entry. That is the open borders experiment, hook and secret. To establish the applicant is a refugee, the applicant must establish that race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group or political opinion was or will be at least one central reason for prosecuting the applicant, according to Title 8, Section 1158B of the U.S. Immigration Law. However, the great majority of these newcomers are not doing so to avoid persecution. I'm sorry. Their poverty has never qualified them for refuge, but that is why they are traveling. Where there are stories of millions of Central and South Americans facing racial persecution if they were fleeing persecution, where are the stories of millions of people facing discrimination due to their faith? Years later, when they get their hearing, the great majority of illegal immigrants will not be granted asylum because they do not meet the requirements. However, we know now we now know that the DHS permits known dangerous immigrants to stay in the nation for years, even when they are aware they are ineligible for asylum. Anywhere else, this type of actions being taken, in some countries, let's just say China, you could face imprisonment or death because you're putting people at risk. All right. Federal law bars individuals who pose as national security or public safety risk from asylum, DHS states. Yet the agency acknowledges the asylum eligibility determination is not currently made until later in the process, at the merits and education stage of the asylum and withholding of removal claims. Like I said, they're doing this on purpose. All right. They want America to be filled with crime. First, they're going to start with the blue states, and you see what's happening with LA. You see what's happening with Chicago. You see what's happening with New York. Okay. Crime is slowly growing, and you see um, retail chains and restaurants, they're closing up. They're closing up shop. This is what they want, so they could bring in martial law. And then when Trump comes in, who not everybody, but a lot of people see him as a savior, okay, he's going to be the one to bring in law and order. All right. That's what's happening here. The Democrats are going to bring in the chaos, and the Republicans are going to bring in their martial law. We are aware that that happens only years later. The proposed regulation would allow asylum seekers to take into account these barriers to asylum and denial of removal during the first credible fear screening, which takes place a few days after an individual is encountered, according to the statement. As stated in the release, this will be better safeguard the security of our border and our country by enabling DHS to expeditiously remove individuals who pose a threat to the United States much sooner than is currently the case. It is only now, after more than 3 years of admitting millions of undocumented immigrants, that the Department of Homeland Security has concluded that perhaps it would be wiser to deport people with violent criminal records and connections to terrorism right away, rather than waiting years for an asylum hearing. These Border Patrol and DHS, not Border Patrol. The Border Patrol is just, it's just the hands and feet of DHS. DHS is not stupid. All right. They're literally having violent people connected to terrorist organizations, connected to terrorism, walk through our borders. Things worsen. The policy hasn't been altered as of yet. To think they want to transform into an administrative regulation and give the public a chance to comment on it. Remarks must be submitted by June 12th. Consequently, the rule won't go into effect until later in the summer. Why can't President Biden issue a new order quickly altering this policy if he can overturn previous President Trump's Remain in Mexico order with his order on day one, a decision that was affirmed by the U.S. Supreme Court? Of course, he can, but this administration is not in a rush to lower the number of immigrants enter the country, even at its attempts to appear tough on illegal immigration in time for election. Yeah, they were trying to get votes. According to the statement, non-citizens who present a national security or public safety risk remain in DHS custody while their cases are referred for full immigration hearing before an immigration judge, a process that can take years and is a resource intensive. According to DHS, as a result, certain undocumented immigrants are not currently allowed to enter the nations. However, it appears that taxpayers pay for their housing and board during the years they wait for their asylum hearing, which DHS frequently knows they won't pass due to their criminal or terrorist history. However, there are grounds to think that some of them are not actually in custody. Speaking about the proposed regulation over the phone with reporters, a senior DHS official stated, "I will say this is intended to be a national security and public safety measure. Therefore, the goal is to make sure that once more, the people we are most worried about, those with significant criminal records or ties to terrorism, can be eliminated from the process as soon as feasible." You are not going to have these people removed. You're not going to do it. How is this a matter of public safety and national security if they are held for years before their trial, as they allege? Since this hasn't always occurred, it seems like DHS has acknowledged they have a significant security issue. Consider the instance of Jose Ibarra, who is suspected of killing Laken Riley, a nursing student who vanished from sight while out for a jog on the University of Georgia campus. After breaking the law and crossing the border, he was first taken into custody by Customs and Border Patrol agents in September of 2022, close to El Paso. His native country was Venezuela. After that, border officials said he was paroled and released for further processing. If you are paroled, you are released and will wait years for your asylum hearing. He boarded a bus for New York. He was taken into custody there for endangering a youngster. ICE was not informed since New York is a sanctuary city. For shoplifting, he was caught once more in Athens, Georgia, a sanctuary city in Athens. Once more, ICE was not informed. Then it is said he killed Miss Riley. ICE should be sued. Although there are no records of his criminal history in Venezuela, it seems likely that he has one given his lengthy criminal history in this country. A joint public service broadcast from the FBI and DHS warned that events taking place during Pride Month could be targeted by foreign terrorist organizations. This is probably related news. Officials also mentioned ISIS messaging that was centered on anti-LGBTQIA plus rhetoric. Why are the DHS and FBI becoming so worried about ISIS in the United States? Is it possible that the past 3 years, individuals connected to ISIS have entered our southern border? Additionally, we found out this week that earlier this month, 2 undocumented immigrants attempted to drive a box truck past security personnel and on a marine facility in Quantico, Virginia, according to the Potomac local news. At least one of them was on the U.S. government's terrorist watch list, while another is a Jordanian national who recently crossed the border. An undocumented Chinese immigrant made his way onto a marine facility in 29 Palms, California in March in a similar incident. All of this makes sense now that we know DHS has been managing undocumented immigrants with criminal histories or connections to terrorism. The organization is dealing with a serious issue. Last year, all right, I won't read that anymore. Yeah, Great Game India reported that the Center for Immigration Studies has learned that the Department of Homeland Security uses encrypted chat room to inform undocumented immigrants of timing for crossing the Rio Grande. Like I said, this is intentional. Okay, so people need to stock up on water, food, and guns because your government is not on your side. Okay, they want the United States to fall apart so they can bring in fascism. That's what they want. They want this new world order, and they're going to get it. And it's up to the American people to be prepared. A lot of people are not going to be prepared. They're going to be too busy doing their own thing. And then when stuff hits the fan, it will be too late. Let me know what you think. All right? In the comment section. Anything you want to know about this channel is in the description box later.